everybody. Back to another episode of Small Business Chronicles. This show has really become your utility knife for things about business, whether it be things you need to be doing in business, how to navigate business, or people with very interesting stories. So, my guest today, I have been looking forward to. You don't even know how much I've been looking forward to. Please, no other guests, don't take offense at this, but business it is business, right? And we talk about business in businessy ways and businessy things. So today I've got Trenton Hudson on with me today. And if you don't know who he is, that's cool. But the impressive resume of just fun shit that you've done in your life makes me entirely happy to have you on here. How are you doing today, Trenton?
I'm great, man. I cannot complain, and thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to coming on your podcast too. So, we're both got some excited
So
juices
so
flowing.
the first thing that I have to say about you is uh when it comes to business, you have two very unique businesses, and one of them is my dream business, and that's animating cartoons and being in cartoons in that entertainment world. And you can find so pause this, make sure that you come back, but pause this, go to Instagram, check out Riot Comedy, riotcomedy.com. Go check it out, subscribe, do the thing. And then we have reference for what we're talking about. So we'll wait. We're gonna stare anxiously at the screen while we wait, but we're gonna wait on you. So go do that. Welcome back for the people that did that. See how time works? It's really fun because that's exactly how time works. Or wish it did anyway. So cartoons, man. How did we get to cartoons?
So, there's kind of two parts to it. Always had an interest in cartoons. I loved drawing as a kid. I loved drawing cartoon characters. I never really like tried to draw realistic. Whenever I was a little kid, I got good at it in my older days because I just took every art
Right.
class that was offered to me in school. Um, but cartoons is what I really liked, and coming up with characters, fake stories, and just having fun with it. But then, so that was like my dream as a kid. And then, as we get older, we kind of drift away from our dreams a little bit, a lot of the time. And then, as I'm getting older, I graduate college. I went to the University of Missouri, got a degree in journalism, um, and I'm working as a financial advisor after I graduate college, actually. And I did not like it at all. Not at all. I worked for a great company and I had great people around me and I had great managers and mentors, but I was like, this sucks. Like, this is not for me. What do I got to do to get out of here? And so I'm really kind of like looking at my life and looking at where I want my life to go and how I want it to be, and kind of trying to design this and trying to figure out what can I do that's like something that I love, that I can also make a lot of money at, and work with the people that I want to work with, my brothers. And I kind of like entertainment was that. We didn't have the resources to film live action, because live action is like, you got to have space, you got to have cameras, you got to have all this and that. And to animate, we just needed to buy computers and some software. And which, when you kind of think about it, sometimes I'm like, man, we probably could have done live action too. But the animation was like,
Eh, yeah.
we thought it was so much easier. And we
No,
always.
no, no, isn't that the
Go
crux
ahead.
of it? Because I've done some animation. I've done a lot of like not we're any near successful as you, but we were kind of talking about it in the pre-interview. And you start out, it's like it's just
Yeah,
animation. How hard can it be?
that was what we thought. But here's the thing: we took a year and a half doing nothing but learning animation. And this is just from YouTube videos and tutorials online all over the place and this and that. So it was a long learning process. And when you're doing something for a year and a half, trying to, maintain focus and maintain excitement about it and not get burnt out or, distracted, that's the tough part. But once you can get through that, it's like it's pretty smoother sailing, not smooth, but smoother. Because you don't have people cheering you on. It's not like, after we launch our YouTube and our YouTube is growing and we're gaining subscribers and followers across social media and this and that, that'll like keep you going. But when you're in the trenches just learning and no one's even knowing you're doing it, you don't have any, cheerleaders, no one's even like the people close to you, like they don't really know what's going on. All they know is you're too busy to hang
There's
out all the
no
time.
instant gratification with animation like there is with a TikTok video or even like a YouTube tutorial
Mhm.
that might take you a couple hours to edit or maybe a whole day to edit or lives and in video game streams. Animation, there's none of that reassurance. It's you present a final product and you hope it's good
After a ton
after
of
a
work.
ton that nobody realizes on earth that you put into it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, but yeah, it was literally, I called my brother one day as I'm working as a financial advisor, and I'm like, "Yo, I'm gonna make cartoons. I'm gonna do entertainment. Will you do this with me?" And the rest of the brothers, you know, jump on board too. And we did, and it was literally we didn't know how to do nothing. We didn't know how to animate. We didn't know how to tell a story properly. All we knew was how to be funny, and that was just from growing up 5 boys talking a lot of shit to each other, making jokes, and everyone getting thick skin because the way our house kind of works, and even still when we all get together, if one person starts making fun of one of the other brothers, no one really takes up for them. The rest of the brothers gang up on them. If you're like getting roasted about anything at all, everyone else is gonna jump on
That
board with the roasting, and no one's gonna come to your aid and like make fun of the other person. It's just
it,
we're just gonna
yeah,
bam,
there's no
bam, bam, just
teams.
like kill
It's
you with the
whoever gets
joke.
shot first gets shot
No
a
team.
lot.
Yeah. 100% that. So, we just knew
Yeah.
how to be funny and knew how to tell jokes and, for lack of a better word, like be
Right.
assholes to each other, but in a fun way. And it's all love, obviously. Like there's 5 of us, we're best friends. So, yeah, it was just we decided we wanted to do it, so we did everything that we could to make it happen. But yeah, again, from scratch. No one went to school for animation. No one went to school for writing or production or any of this stuff. It was literally just we had to figure it out. So we just jumped in the
So
deep
you've
end.
been really successful at it. Success is measured in different things, but when I say you've been successful at it, who are some of the people that you've worked with animation for? Who are? I was reading that on one of your profiles. Who have you done animation for?
Mhm. We did actually. It's almost insane to even think about. The very first show we ever made got picked up by Comedy Central to do a web series with them. So the first thing we ever did on YouTube was a show called The Lounge, and it was just about these 4 guys that work at a school, but none of them are teachers. It's like the PE coach, secretary, counselor, bus driver. So they just screw around in the lounge all the time, right? And that show, we did a web series with Comedy Central for 2 years. So we've worked with Comedy Central. We've worked with Kevin Hart's LOL Network. We've worked with Showtime. We just did a football cartoon for ESPN. Um, who else? And then we've done stuff with I don't know, World Star, Ball is Life, probably a handful of other people, but yeah, like ESPN, LOL, Showtime, yeah, Comedy Central. Those are kind of the bigger players that we've worked with in this space. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun and quite the journey
But be
getting to
proud,
that.
man, because self-taught, like for a long time before I had to change it on my LinkedIn when I said YouTube University, right? Because I didn't have any
Yeah.
formal education into anything, and if I needed to know how to do something,
Hmm.
I would just like run to the bathroom and look it up on YouTube real quick. And I think I. th- yeah, I think there's a
Yeah.
certain set of people and professionals out there now that are from YouTube University that they've got the drive, they got the
Hmm.
mindset, but they just didn't have the couple $100,000 to go into debt. Or like you went to college for something totally different that
Yeah.
you ended up hating, and so you can double down
Yeah.
and reinvest, or you can take advantage of the resources around you to do the thing that you want to do.
Hmm. I agree, and I think I've been telling people for about 10 years now because I graduated college 2012. We started we decided we were going to make the cartoons in October 2013, and that was the time where we went to Best Buy, got a Best Buy credit card, and maxed it out buying computers to make it happen. Got the software we needed. Um, but yeah, I mean, YouTube University, I've been telling people for a long time that that's the way to go. And I think no matter what you want to do, unless you want to be a doctor or in a lot of states, a lawyer, some states don't require you to go to law
Yeah.
school. You can pass the bar exam and be a lawyer. You can just study and not waste $80,000 going to law school. But well, I wouldn't say it's a waste, but maybe depends
Right.
on how you look at it. But my thing is, I would always tell people like, so originally I wanted to go to school for so I have a journalism degree. I originally wanted to go for broadcasting, I wanted to like be on ESPN and host Sports Center and that type of stuff. But as I took my reporting class, I was like, you know what, this ain't for me. Even if it is sports reporting, I'm not doing this. I don't like it. Um, but my thing is, if you want to work for ESPN, if I was coming out of high school right now, if I wanted to work for ESPN and do Sports Center, there's a 0% chance I would go
Right.
to college for that. 0% chance. I would start my own sports podcast, and I would have it set up nice. I would have a green screen behind me with like a sports theme type of thing that they do on sports, and I'd have a nice desk, and I'd be hosting a sports talk show and gain popularity for 4 years, and that would be far better of an investment than going to school for 4 years trying to figure this out. If you can gain a following, if you can capture attention, you will get
That
hired. I promise. Like it's all about eyeballs and dollars
on
and clicks.
on a small
So
scale, I've got to double down on this and tell you a real quick story about my life. Is that
do it.
is
Lay it
that
on me.
10, 11 years ago, I was doing a podcast. It was a comedy podcast. I've paid a lot of people a lot of money to erase it from existence so I never get canceled. But it was just like the morning shows, like Opie Anthony, Howard Stern. It's like I wanted to go do that. So I
Mhm.
got two or three
Yeah,
friends. We
yeah.
went and did that. No limit, no censors, which was horrible for my sense of humor. But
Nice.
so we run 20, 30 episodes, started getting this following. Got about 30, 40,000 people. I run this world map. And this is in the
Mhm.
early days of like Stacker podcast. I don't even remember what the name of it was. This was, so it all fell apart. All of us didn't know what to do. It started taking off and it just kind of fell apart. Um,
Mhm.
but the local radio station, the station manager there listened to it and loved it. So when
Mhm.
this was all coming to an end and it was just a really bad time in my life, there was a lot of other stuff going on. They reached out and said, "Hey, you want to
Mhm.
come guest on the morning show every now and then?" I'm like, "Yeah, that'd be cool." And because I guested on that morning show, I ended up getting a permanent spot at that radio station, and then having my own show at that
Nice.
radio station, which led my journey into marketing and where I'm at today. So to double down and to double down on that, you're right. College education isn't it. We have the internet and we have the ability to own and grow our own audiences. And then the bigger people,
Mhm.
that's where they recruit from. It's kind of like college to pro sports.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just proved my point. And if if you could have stuck with it and like a 30, 40,000
Yeah.
following, that's like a really good following to get things going. So if there's someone out there who's trying to, gain it to a couple million, ESPN will
Yeah.
come try to swoop them up if they can,
Uh,
keep that and maintain, with what's like aligned with the brand. Obviously, if you have like, a sports
yeah.
podcast where you're cussing and talking a lot of smack and this and that, then, ESPN might not be a good brand fit. But there's someone out there who, they still may pluck you if they got that kind of big brand that doesn't mean or doesn't mind to kind of teeter the
Right.
edge of what's allowed, what's allowed and what's
Well, that brings
acceptable.
me to my next subject. I want to talk to you a little bit about your cartoons. So, where do you get your subject matter and where do you know your limits for what you do? Because in my research and the ones I've seen on YouTube and Instagram and stuff, I'm not saying they're safe. They're really, really funny. But have you ever where did
Hmm.
you and your brothers have to set your limits on what you were going after? Because I know there's a lot of sports oriented, there's a few political. So, how do you guys
Hmm.
set your limits on what you're going after and what you're making fun of?
So as far as our content, mostly we hit what's going on in current events. So with the basketball show, um, Team USA got like fourth in the FIBA games recently. So we got an episode about that coming out today. But sometimes if something's like really big news, if we don't have a ton of stuff in the pipeline already, something may happen today and we'll have an episode out for it tomorrow. We can pump out episodes that quick because we do short form content. So it just kind of depends on. We kind of let the news dictate most of our content as far as what we're gonna hit. But then we have a lot of original shows also, and that comes from anything and everything. There is no rhyme or reason to where those ideas are sparked from. Um, and there's no rhyme or reason to our writing process. Sometimes we'll all collaborate on a script. Sometimes it's two of us. Sometimes it's one of us. Sometimes one person writes a script and sends it to everyone and says, "Hey, read this over. Give me notes. Change whatever you want, or let me know what you think." And but everything after that is a pretty streamlined process. But yeah, I mean, as far as what we can get away with, we do try to play by the rules on social media because unfortunately that is somebody
Mhm.
else's platform and they get to make the rules. But on riotcomedy.com, there are no rules. And we'll get a little more edgy, a lot more edgy actually. Say outlandish things. And our comedy is not for everyone. It is definitely for adults. But yeah, that's the way we like it. I mean, our biggest influence growing up
Oh,
was
of
South
course.
Park. And South Park's began when I was 7 years old. So and I started really watching it heavy when I was like 8, and I don't think I've missed an episode. So, that when that's your influence and we're really influenced by, some of the other people who are in comedy is like we love the Hangover movies, so Todd
Oh,
Phillips is a
yeah.
big one for us. Seth Rogen when he was still doing comedies because we love like, Pineapple Express, This Is the End, The Interview, that type of raunchy comedy.
Oh, yeah.
Superbad is like a huge influence. Like there's a few one-liners in Superbad that are just like in like the Hall of Fame of one-liner comedy, and it's not even like a real like huge joke. It's just like that's some funny stuff to say. And Danny McBride, if you've seen Eastbound and Down, Kenny Powers, big
I do
influence.
the
We
absolute
we like that shit talking
I do
kind
the
of
absolute
humor.
worst Kenny Powers impression, but I do it constantly. It's pretty much my life. So
I ain't even mad at that, man. Kenny Powers is fantastic. If you haven't watched Danny McBride's other shows on HBO, you should.
oh,
Vice
amazing.
Principals was great. Um, and then
Gemstones.
what's the one he's doing
Uh,
now? The Righteous Gemstones is killer. Um, it did have a couple down
yeah.
moments in Gemstones, but it's picked back up and it's going really good. And I'm really liking this season so far.
Danny McBride is
Um,
a genius, and you either love him or hate him. Yeah.
Agreed. Best
Yeah.
writer in Hollywood. Yeah. Personal opinion, best writer in Hollywood. Nobody else is coming anywhere near his level of funny at this
No.
particular moment in time in
No,
comedy. And I'd say that's probably been true for the last
because you
4 or
go to
5 years.
Eastbound and Down, not to take this little side trip, but you go to Eastbound and Down, and it was just really raw, arrogant, you have to deal with me
Mhm.
comedy. And, he's just starting out, so I don't know how much
Yeah.
control he had over that. And then you go to Vice Principals and you start to see
Mhm.
him flourish. And man, the depth in Righteous Gemstones
Yeah.
that he writes. And
Yeah.
there's moments in Righteous Gemstones
Mhm.
that I just sit and think about, and you realize that he's the head writer on that show. He's the one that
Mhm.
does all of it. And yeah, I've got to agree with you. If maybe not the best, but one of the best comedy writers.
Mhm. Yeah. I think that it depends on how you define the best. I'd say
Yeah.
the funniest. I think as far as telling a story, starting something, wrapping it up well, doing as
Yeah.
far as like a structure, I'd say Larry David is probably the best.
Yes.
But as far as being funny,
Yeah.
Dan McBride is way ahead of everyone. But as far as just writing a good story and yeah, getting it to where it needs to be and wrapping it up and bringing things
Mhm.
back from the beginning that you forgot about,
Oh, dude,
Larry David is the one.
I've watched every season of Curb, and because
Oh, Kirk is
yeah,
fantastic. Big influence for us too.
the
It's
weird thing
great.
is I
Like
was not a Seinfeld fan. And I'm still not. Like, I went back and tried to watch it
I wasn't
and
either.
whatever,
Same,
and
same.
then
I've
somebody
done
said Kurt. I'm like, "No, it's the Seinfeld guy. It's Larry David. I don't really care about him or whatever," right?
it.
So
Yeah,
so then I had a friend like, "No,
yeah.
no," and watched. I caught it like started mid seasons or whatever, and I'm like, "All right." So it took me a while to catch
Hmm.
up, and now every one of them.
Yeah, and I don't. I've honestly watched a lot of Seinfeld just for the sake
Yeah.
of studying it, and because I do think Seinfeld is on that level of Larry David of how to write a story amazingly well. It's just I was born in 1990, right? So I did, my growing
Mhm.
up in the 2000s, and 90s comedy just doesn't hold up the way comedy is such an evolving thing. So it's impossible to be born of this generation and laugh at things from the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and you go back and just like the way because comedy
Oh,
evolves at
yeah.
such a rapid pace, and then once you establish a new level of what's funny, it's hard to laugh at things on those lower levels, and there are movies that definitely hold up and stand the test of time. I think Dumb and
Yeah.
Dumber uh holds up. Came out in 94, classic. um and you know what? Even I think Liar Liar has got some shit. Um, The Wedding Singer came
Yeah.
out in, like, '97 or
Oh,
'98,
absolutely.
classic. That movie holds up really well. The Wedding Singer is amazing, it's a classic. But the general, when you think of, like, '90s humor, it just doesn't hold up compared to the stuff that
So
people
one
are
of my
doing
favorite
now.
comparisons for that is my absolute all-time favorite live action show is Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I don't know why, but I can recite
Top-notch
every
show.
word at least for the first 7 seasons, right? I can do that. Now my wife,
Mhm.
which I love and adore because she listens to these, and I love you, baby. Her favorite show in the world is Friends, and so it's not a good show. It wasn't a good show then. It's not a good show now. I don't.
I give Friends
Yeah.
2
So
thumbs all the way
I don't
down.
care what hate I get. Friends is awful. It was awful then. It's awful now. But but
I'm 100%
but
with you, man, it's
so we
awful.
started talking about it and kind of made the comparison, right? They're both the same show.
Mhm.
It's a group of friends put in
Mhm.
a situation and how that style of friends handle it. And you've almost got the same makeup,
Mhm.
except when you're talking about depth of comedy, you've got this is safe, this is making
Yeah.
everybody chuckle and laugh, the American dream. And then you have like five sociopathic losers that are just trying to kill each other. And
Give
I'm
me
there.
that.
That's what I'm for.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, every time. And, yeah, that's a perfect example because Friends, again, '90s humor, that show went from what, like,
Too
90 to
long, yeah.
2000, I think, somewhere around those. Yeah, and it's just also the characters on Friends, let's be real, they're probably I don't know what your demographic is like for who listens to your show, but I'm just not a fan of Friends, man, like, I think all the guy characters on there are terrible. I think Ross is, like, the worst character in the history of television. I can't stand him. He's unbearable to watch, like, I don't wanna watch this wimpy guy who's always sad and depressed, and all he does is whine. Get off my TV
Right.
screen, dude.
It's
Get out of
I
here. Don't
cannot
come
wait
back.
to take this home and show my
Always
wife.
Sunny, top notch. All the characters are fantastic. Frank, all the way down to Katie Olsen and everyone in between. Everyone's
Oh
fantastic.
yeah.
So yeah,
But
yeah, I'm
no,
with you.
1,000%, man. Um, so when you're pulling off of influences and stuff like that, because we talked about it a little bit before. I'm just a tad bit. George Carlin one was one of my. If anybody asks me about my political
Mhm.
views, my religion, my whatever, I'm like, hey, I went to the Church of George Carlin. That's where I live my life, which is
Yeah,
maybe good or bad depending.
yeah.
So have you ever got, because now that you're getting bigger and you're in these areas of a few 100,000 followers and ESPN, have you gotten blowback from some of the celebrities you've roasted, like directly or indirectly? Oh wow.
Nah, nah, never. The only time this is
Okay.
when we get blowback is when we go after somebody polarizing. Like if we do an episode,
No,
sorry, my
that's fine.
mic got muted somehow. But so yeah, so the only time we get blowback is when we go after somebody who's a polarizing figure, polarizing public figures. Like again, LeBron James is one of my favorite
Right.
basketball players of all time. This man has been playing basketball since I was in junior high, so I grew up watching this guy. But we make fun of
I
him a
noticed.
lot
Yeah.
because to me that's
Yeah.
that's the price of greatness. When you're on that upper echelon level, you have to take everything that comes with it, and we're gonna give you the jokes, right? But you know, also like my three favorite players ever are like no particular order, like Michael, LeBron, and Kobe. But everyone always just picks one of those guys, and then they're like, "That's the goat." And then if you say anything that says otherwise, we got problems. So when we say things that are otherwise to that, people come in and flood our comments and give us blowback. But it is what it is. We did an episode where Michael Jordan. This is whenever he was selling the Charlotte Hornets. Charles, he's like giving a press conference, and Charles Barkley's one of the reporters that shows up asking questions, and Charles starts talking shit, right? And then he's so they're talking shit to each other, and Michael brings up the 6 rings. He's like, "You remember when I won 6 rings?" And Charles like, "I remember when you got kicked out the league for gambling. Look it up, America." So everyone, all, all the
Oh
MJ
yeah.
fans in the comments, he didn't get kicked out of the league for gambling. That's a lie, and yada yada. And it's like, yo, man, we just
Who,
making jokes out here.
uh,
This ain't a news network. This is a comedy
who the hell
network,
takes
bro.
off that many seasons and then no, you got kicked out for gambling? I'm with you.
I, you know, personally, I think he probably did, But at the end of the day, in my
Oh
opinion,
yeah,
Michael's
yeah.
still the GOAT, if you know? So, and I don't have any proof, that's just all speculation, but at the end of the day, we're not trying to
No.
spread rumors, we're just making
Yeah.
jokes. Again, we're not a news network, we're called Riot Comedy, so our name should tell you what we're about, and we're about just being funny and being raunchy and giving a lot of blowback on, you started to see a lot of, people telling people what they can and
Right.
can't joke about and this and that, the censorship. And I think everything can be joked about. There's no topic that is off limits. You think about the worst thing in the world that's ever happened to somebody, there's a joke in there somewhere. You just haven't looked for it yourself. We'll
Yes.
we'll do that for you. But that's that's kind of our philosophy, is that everything has some element of comedy to it. And
Uh-huh.
we're good at finding that.
I'm
So
right there with you. I'm that guy in all my business groups, right? Because I used to be a stand-up
mm,
comedian. My
yeah.
comedy was all like no, my comedy was good. It's
Yeah.
just viewed as awful because it's more on the darker
Hmm.
side. Anytime
Yeah.
something
That's what we
anytime
like.
something inappropriate happens or where they would like to say it's always me they turn to. It's always they always look at me and like, "Are you gonna say something about this?" And I'm like, "No, no, no, not this time.
Yeah.
Not this time." And there's a
Yeah.
lot of those jokes of blah, 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 and then they're laughing and no one else in the business meeting knows why, and I get fired. That's kind of my
Yeah.
story of yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Because you took my next question. Is there anything that is off limits? Is there anything that
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No. I'll the only thing that's off limits for us is because me and if you're just listening to the podcast and you're not watching it, I am Caucasian, so we
right,
don't say the N word. Everything else is
right.
fine. No, that's our only limit. And I've seen, people say the N word on
Yeah,
stage doing stand up comedy and work it in a way that's funny. And from a speech perspective, I do support it. I think if you're funny enough and confident enough and you're willing to deal with the consequences that come with that, then by all means,
right.
be my
No,
guest. I'm not gonna do it.
no,
No, thank you. But yeah, I think, everyone can say anything as long as you're funny. My favorite quote of all time is Richard Pryor, and I don't want to butcher it, but he says comedy rules, and there's no rules in stand-up comedy. You can say whatever you want just so
yeah.
long as it's funny, but if you ain't funny, get the fuck off
Right,
the stage.
right.
And that's my thing. It's like, if you're funny, you can pull it off. And there's a way that, we do really raunchy comedy sometimes, but you can tell that when we do raunchy comedy, it's coming from an
Right,
authentic place. And you can tell when someone does something raunchy to try to get a shock value laugh. And we don't do that. We create really authentic characters that everything we do kind of, if one of our characters does something outrageous, you can say to yourself, "Oh, I know why that character did that," or "Doesn't surprise me that this character did that," or whatever it is. So everything we do is authentic. And we grew up in a very unconventional way. We broken home, separated family. My parents got divorced when we were kids, like young kids. My two oldest brothers grew up with my dad. Me and my younger brothers grew up with my mom. Had struggles. I know what it's like to go to bed hungry. We lived in poverty. I know what all this is like. There were other personal struggles our parents dealt with too. So, when you're going through, they say, it's like that trauma response, right? You use comedy as a
right.
coping mechanism. So we always
Yeah.
did that growing up. So as kids, that's kind of how we had to raise ourselves. And so now we think everything is funny. And
Well,
that's just
it
kind of who we are. And our
it
brain
it
reflects
it
that.
I love memes. I come from the great meme war generation. Memes are one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
And there was one, and it was a picture of a Tinder profile, and it said, "I am looking for somebody that
Mm.
is funny and lighthearted." And they're like, don't you know how funny people are made? Those 2 things don't exist."
Real talk. Real
I
talk.
I was a stand-up comedian because it was cheaper to
Yeah.
bitch about my parents on stage and get paid for it than it was to go to actual therapy,
Right.
you know? And it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
easier for me
Absolutely.
to be a debaucherous single guy and go brag about it on stage than it
Mhm.
was to fix my mental illness. It's
Yeah.
yeah,
And comedy is
yeah.
therapy, man. I think when you're doing stand up, there's nothing like it, and I think it's also the very most difficult job in the
You
world.
know,
It's
I
like
hated it.
I have a love-hate relationship with it. I really do love it. Um, it's just like sometimes, and I think this is a good thing. Sometimes you're just like, it's very nerve-wracking because when you're on stage, you're in an environment where people expect you to
Yeah.
make them laugh. So they're sitting there waiting for you to make them laugh, and it's like, but if you don't make them laugh, then you gotta remember the jokes that you still have coming, but also figure out a way in the back of your mind to pivot. And so you're getting so much live feedback that, even though your performance may be, it's rehearsed, it's written, it's, planned, but at the same time, it's like if things don't go according to plan, you got to change the plan, because if you don't change the plan, you might as well just end your set right there and get off the
In
stage.
my years that I did that, all those things you're saying is correct. I get
Hmm.
bored too easy is my problem. Because if anybody out
Mm,
there thinks
yeah,
that Louis C.K. or Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Kevin Hart, any of the new comedians that are come up or whatever, that they don't know by the minute what they're gonna say by the time that HBO special comes out. What the fuck's wrong with you? Because that's what happens. You
absolutely,
do the same show
absolutely,
over
yeah,
and over and over and over. You take a piece of content, you use that live feedback,
yeah,
and you punch it up and you unpunch it up, or you do this. Improv comedy is not a stand-up comedy thing. Even most improv things they practice to some extent. Um, but just that
yeah,
constant of saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, I got bored on stage and would
mm,
just start yelling at people to for something to do, right? My favorite comedy gig ever was I
yeah,
was right at the end of calling it quits on stand up. So I started writing really bad
hmm,
dad jokes that were very clean and very not funny. And I was doing it on purpose. And I
yeah,
would tell enough of them in bad timing that I'd get the audience to yell at me. And as soon as the audience would yell at me,
yeah,
I would pivot and be brutal and roast them as soon as they said something.
yeah,
And that's
nice, yeah,
and
yeah,
when I once I realized I didn't really wanna do that either, I was like, "I'm gonna go podcast now."
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
cool. But yeah, stand up, man. There's nothing like it. It's nothing
Oh,
like it.
no. So after the cartoon thing, so you have another company too, which is, a different type of coffee, well, it's not technically coffee company, but it's coffee-esque. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's made out of date seeds, and so it's called Korma. And I started this during the pandemic. I never thought I would ever start any kind of coffee company whatsoever. But this all happened because when I was 20, I actually had a heart attack. So I have two aneurysms in my LAD, and one of those closed up and caused a heart attack when I was 20. And then 15 months later, I had a heart attack number two. So the bottom half of my LAD, there's actually no blood flowing through there. But luckily, before I had my first heart attack, my heart detected something was up, and it developed arteries around that to still get blood to that bottom quarter of my heart. Didn't even know that was possible till it happened to me. The human body's an amazing, wondrous thing. But my heart has pretty well completely normal function, normal blood flow, everything. But caffeine actually restricts your arteries. So for somebody like me, I feel that whenever it happens. And so I gave up coffee. I quit drinking coffee in like October 2019 or something. I remember I was at Comic Con, and we had a booth set up, and there was this little booth around the corner that had these like little coffee chocolate bars, and they were like killer. They were so good. So I was, had a couple of those like each day, and but then dealing with chest pain, I was like, yeah, I should probably lay off the caffeine, give this up. And so I went, year plus without having any coffee at all. And one day I'm just in my kitchen eating dates, and I eat a lot of dates. And growing up poor, you've got to be very resourceful. So I just happened to Google one day. I said, I wonder if I can do anything with these leftover date seeds, and you can turn them into coffee. So I started making it at home for myself and really loved it. But I got tired of making it myself and really just wanted to go to the store and buy it. But I couldn't find it anywhere. So there was kind of like an aha moment. And it's like, if I'm looking for this, I know other people looking for this too, whether you have a heart condition or you know, people with type 2 diabetes are recommended to avoid caffeine, pregnant women, all sorts of people. And like, I don't know, like 40% of Americans have some sort of heart issue, so or heart disease or whatever. So, yeah, I really wanted to be able to, have something for myself and go go buy it in the store, but also help out other people who were looking, whether they're in a similar situation as me or maybe they just want to do some, for their health for whatever their own personal reasons are. But yeah, it was again, never thought I would do it. And we got three flavors now. We got a classic, we got a light roast, and we have a hazelnut, and it's going really well. But yeah, just the wildest thing. Never in a million years saw myself doing a coffee
So
company.
does the coffee and cartoons cross paths anywhere? Do you use one to kind of promote the other, or not at all?
I don't. And here's the thing, my cartoons are our demographic is almost all men, and they're in that 18 to 34 range mostly.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
mostly in the 18 to 34 range. But when we look at our metrics, we have some younger and some older. So our demographic is pretty much like adult men
Yeah.
of all ages, really. And I have a lot of men as customers for my coffee because every time I look at all the orders come in, I'm seeing this and that and looking at names and trying to figure out where this customer came from and yada yada. But a lot, definitely more than half of my coffee customers are women. I'd probably say about 70% of them are, and I don't know if that's just because women do all the shopping. So maybe they're buying it for their husbands, and I just don't know. But yeah, women spend all the money in America apparently. Whenever when it comes to like retail goods, right? Um, so I don't know if there's like really an opportunity there. I don't think I definitely can't use my coffee to
Right.
promote my
Right.
cartoons.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
definitely a no go. That's
Right.
definitely a no go. Although using my cartoons to promote my coffee, I don't know how responsive our followers would be to it. It just never seemed like, and I've thought about it like really deeply a lot, but I don't know if I've figured out, maybe there is a way to do it right, but I don't know how responsive it might just look like a cheap plug to
It,
some of
it,
our some of our followers.
but
I don't
coming
know.
off of the South Park thing, I think you cheap plug it and just own it. Just
Mhm.
like just
That's not a bad idea.
like on your cultivated shows, be like, this is the
Yeah,
coffee. This is Korma coffee, blah, blah, blah. You'd almost think one of the owners of the show
yeah,
owns the Korma coffee, and you you just own
not
it.
bad. Yeah, I think there
Yeah.
might be something there.
You
Yeah, there
just
might be
own it.
something there to
Or you
play
could
with
just
for sure.
animate this clip right here,
Yeah.
and there you go.
It's not
Right,
a bad
right.
idea either.
I've been trying to think of something really funny to say to get you to animate some clip from the show. So, uh,
I'll have to go back and watch it. We probably dropped some gems out earlier. I'll go see if I can dig up some of the one that you paid money to get wiped off the internet. I'll see if
oh,
I can do some digging on the dark web and see if I can find some.
good luck. Oh, but yeah, there's I'll send you a couple. There's a couple.
Maybe someone has an old stand-up clip of
Oh,
you somewhere. I can bribe somebody and get an old stand-up clip off someone's cell
oh,
phone.
I would rather watch. Never mind. I can't say that on this show. I would. Let's just say I don't want that to happen.
You'd rather watch Friends?
No, I don't even want to go back and edit it. I'll tell you when you shut this off. I'll tell you when you
Yeah,
shut
no
this
worries.
off.
That's perfect.
But man, it has been so fun to have you on the show, man.
Oh, the pleasure
Oh
was all
man,
mine, man.
we got to do this again. Congratulations
Yeah, absolutely.
congratulations
Yeah.
in your
Yeah, thank you, man.
animation
Thank
and
you.
your coffee business and all the other things that you got going on, man. We were talking in the beginning, and Trenton and me grew up just about an hour and a half, 2 hours apart. Had no clue. Had zero clue that
Yeah.
we were actually Missouri boys, both of us, and not really that far back.
Yeah.
You went to LA and you started making cartoons, and I just stayed in Missouri and got married repeatedly. So I mean, congratulations, man. Congratulations.
Hey, congratulations to you too. You had some good things come out of
I
those
did. I
marriages,
did.
kids, and I don't know what your current marriage is like, but it's current, so it's probably really
No,
good.
it's so going back to the comedy thing. A couple quotes
Mhm.
is I remember it was either was it Louis C.K. Or whatever. He on one of a talk shows he said if you're a comedian you're a piece of shit. That's how that works. Is that there's no healthy like Jim Gaffigan and all these safe comedians. They're like you should see him backstage. They're as bad as
Mhm.
everybody else. They just have a different persona, right?
Yeah.
The
Oh, yeah.
more I got mentally
Oh, yeah.
healthy, the more I went to therapy, the more I took care of my trauma and stuff, the less I really cared about doing comedy. I'm still, whatever.
Yeah.
But this trade off to that, and we were talking about that being therapy, is for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm healthy enough to maintain a good relationship and to be
Yeah.
successful
Nice. Good for you,
and
man.
to be
That's
here.
awesome.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So according to that, no, love of my life. That's the person I die with, whether it's old age or murder suicide. That's the person I die with.
That's what's
So
up. Yeah. Very cool. I know we didn't talk a lot of business on this podcast, but for the people listening, I just want to like say one really important thing is that, if you want to start like any kind of business, you start off small and you grow up from there. But you like don't let fear hold you back. Don't let just because you don't know how to do something stop you from doing what it is you want to do. Because again, me and my brothers, we had to teach ourselves how to animate. We spent a year and a half doing nothing but learning how to animate, learning how to write a story properly. um, had no idea how to do any of this. In our first episodes on YouTube, they're not on Riot Comedy, but they are. You might be able to search the Lounge cartoon on YouTube and watch the very first stuff we ever made in like 2015, and it is almost unwatchable. But we put it out anyway, and you can tell the animation is terrible. The story is bad. It's like there's no structure to anything whatsoever. All we did was, as soon as we knew how to animate good enough to make characters move around, basically we started putting stuff out, and we just figured it out as we went. And I kind of did the same thing with the coffee. Like I didn't know anything about coffee. How to I didn't know what a French press was. I didn't know the difference between a latte and a cappuccino. I didn't know none
yeah,
of these things. Like most of the information that came from me with when I started my coffee company was customers emailing me and be like, "Oh, would this work good with this? Would this work good with this?" And then like run into Google or run into YouTube or running somewhere and trying to figure out, what the answer to their question is. But yeah, I had no clue whatsoever. I just jumped in and figured it out. And I'm not like any more special than anyone else in that regard. Like I don't, I wasn't like born with any kind of, knowledge about how to start a company or anything. I just wanted to do it bad enough to where I wasn't going to let like fear hold me back.
I think that's the hardest thing for people to deal with because bravery and stupidity are very closely related,
Absolutely.
and it, it and a
Absolutely.
lot of times you don't
Absolutely.
know which one you've been until you get the result, and that holds people back.
Hmm.
But you can do a lot of things stupid and still learn from it, and you've learned, hey, I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah, I've
Oh yeah,
failed lots of times. I don't wanna give this impression like, oh, even though just because like, oh, the first show we ever made got picked up by Comedy Central, like there was a lot of failures along the way. I started a video game company to make mobile video games a handful of years ago that failed before it got off the
right.
ground. Like
Yeah.
it didn't go nowhere. You've seen the meme of the like remote control plane where it goes up sky for a second and then it
Yes.
just immediately crashes down. We didn't even get that far. We didn't even get that far.
Like
It
like
never left the ground and
didn't even get
exploded
off the
on the ground.
tarmac. Just popped right there. Yeah.
Uh, the only difference is I'm not afraid
Right.
to fail. That's the only thing that might separate me from some other people. I'm just not afraid to fail. That's the only thing. I don't have any other special abilities. I just,
Uh,
you know, am willing to jump
it,
in the
to
deep
kind
end.
of pull it back, we were talking about Always Sunny in Philadelphia and Charlie Day. Charlie Day from that show. He
Mhm.
has a commencement speech on YouTube, and if you have never seen that, um, go watch that. His favorite line is goes fail. You can't be afraid to fail. Go and fail the way you want to fail. Pick yourself back up and go fail again in the way and the road that you want to fail. Eventually, that adds up to success. It's not a thing that you just get to come out of it. You didn't saunder out of your mother a success. You had to go through these trials and experiences and
Mhm.
trauma and growth and health and sacrifice. I mean, look at all you had a college degree for
Mhm.
being a financial planner. You're a money farmer at that point.
Well, actually, my
Or
college degree was in
journalism, sorry,
journalism,
sorry.
so that failed. I never worked in journalism, and
For
then worked in
financial planning,
financial
yeah.
planning.
Yeah.
That failed.
So the whole thing that you put your
You
stock
know?
into and this dream that you had, and you put all this money and time into is
Mhm.
nowhere even close to where you are today.
Yeah.
And that's yeah,
Never
yeah,
materialized at
because you
all.
put a lot of time and money into failing. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you're a success. You're
I
yes,
learned a
yeah,
lot though. I learned a lot from it though. That's the thing. So as long as you learn
yeah.
from your failures and try not to make the same mistake twice, and then
That
you'll be okay.
that's one thing that I really love in business that I'm seeing today, and I'm seeing as a trend. is
Mhm.
that used to, I remember growing up and back in the day, and maybe it's my own misremembering or whatever. People didn't talk about failures, especially with men. You failed, you were weak.
Mhm.
Your marriage failed, it was weak. Your project
Yeah.
failed, it was weak. You lost a job, you were weak. Or you were weak willed, or there was something wrong with you.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm. Well, I think people, like, find, like,
yeah,
shame in failing on things, and, I'm not, like I think there are some moments where I've felt shame for failing too, but at the end of the day, it's like, I
right,
know who I am, and I know who I'm becoming, and I love who I am, and there was a part in my life where I didn't
right.
like who I was, so I worked on changing that, and that was me. I failed as a human being
Yes.
lots of times. Like, it's unfortunately it's part of the process, but you're not gonna get to the success without the failures. It's just
No.
not possible.
And that's a message that I'm seeing more and more in business, and that's a message that I think should have
Mhm.
been embraced a long time ago. The new
Yeah.
generation, the new business, the way of doing it is way less stuffy than it used to be. And it used to be you had to wear a
Yeah.
tie, you had to do, we're sitting here on a business podcast with business written over there somewhere, and I'm in a shirt and you're in a shirt and we're in our
Mhm.
homes, and
Yeah.
it's not as stuffy as it used to be because business has evolved into that point where failure is an acceptable task.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, like you mentioned, like, yeah, we're
Yeah.
wearing, like, regular shirts, we're not wearing anything, like,
Oh,
fancy, but, results are
right.
what people care about, and if you can deliver results, you get to dress however you want to
Yeah.
work for real.
My wife and I, we were talking the other day, and because she moved in and she's got younger kids or whatever, I told her, I said, I have worked really hard to get a job that I didn't have to go to until 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. Like I have worked.
Same.
That was a tenant and structure in starting my own marketing company, and starting my own
Mhm.
business, and doing all the things and everything that I do. That was a core. Now she has to be to work at 6:30. The kids have to be to work at school. So I don't get to do that anymore. but 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 you will
Right.
find different reasons to have your success. You will find different pillars and markers that
Yeah.
makes that failure, that makes that struggle, that makes the hours you and your brother spent doing YouTube. And it could be some of the weirdest things too
Mhm.
that just make you, here I'm successful, so now I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But, yeah, I think, we all have our own
Yeah.
versions of success, so I think it's important to define what
Yeah.
success is to you. And so, like you just mentioned, like, it was important for you to, have a job that you didn't have to be at work till 9:30 or whatever. And for me, what's really important, like, my most important thing is I wanna be able to
Yeah.
control my time. That's what's important for me. And now, granted, 9 times out of 10, I'm up at 6 a.m., and as soon as I
Yeah.
get up, I get to work. I work on something for a handful of hours, and then I go to the gym, and then I come back home and I work some more. But if something comes up, if I want to go do something, or if I want to go see my family and fly to the Midwest, I don't have to ask time off. I
No.
don't have to do, all I have to do is make sure that the things that I have to get done. And now, granted, luckily, we live in a digital age where I can take
Hmm.
computers with me when I travel and this and that, so I can still get all the work done that needs to get done. But yeah, for me, it was I still get to control my time, and that's what's important for me. Number one, more than anything, is making sure that I can be there for myself and for the people that I love, and I don't have to ask another human being, "Hey, can I take off work today to go to my nephew's
Yeah.
baseball game," or something like that, or tomorrow's my nephew's birthday. Can someone work for me, or can you help me get a, like, I
Yeah.
can't do
No.
that. I did that for
Yeah.
a long time, and I did. I made a lot of sacrifices for a long time, but now I'm 33 and I'm in a position where I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have to ask any other adult permission to do anything in my whole
Yeah.
entire life anymore, which is, to me, that is like my ultimate success. Now I'm just trying to get the what everyone else calls success with the big house and the fancy
You
car
know,
and stuff, but I get to control my time right now, but
it's weird. I'm with you on like the redefining success and being able to control your own time. So
Mhm,
the people that
mhm,
sponsor this show, Titan Digital, I work for them. I'm the director of marketing over
mhm,
there, and I'm a salaried
mhm,
employee. But on the other side, I have my own marketing company,
mhm,
and they know me and respected me
mhm,
enough to let me do that as well. Like so. I still get to control my
Mhm.
time. I still get to be successful because you're talking about they care about results. I come
Yeah.
in there, had to punch a clock, had to do the
Yeah.
things, had to earn that trust, and had to earn
Mhm.
that respect of everybody to be able to become an executive and own my own time and
Mhm.
convince them to let me
Yeah.
do this for a living.
Mhm. Yeah, and for some people, like, controlling all of your own time may
Yeah,
not be as important because also as an entrepreneur, you have to deal with every
yeah,
month is different, up and down. And some months you're like, "Woo, things are amazing, man. If every month was like this, I'd be
yeah.
woo, life would be incredible, amazing, and this and that." But then you have months where like, "Oh my god, if every month was like this, I would be
Oh yeah,
bankrupt very
yeah.
soon," you know?
So
Some months you're like just on cloud 9 and some months you're just
yeah,
not even
so
in
I get
any
the
clouds.
I get the
That's just
best of
what it
both
is.
worlds because I got that security. I draw the pay,
Mhm.
but then I get to kind of
Yeah,
do whatever I want, and Titan will sponsor things, and then get on the other
nice.
side because I'm small
Mhm,
scope marketing. I'm very boutique creative marketing. They're more of the digital.
mhm,
They're more of like the digital website building, analytic type marketing or whatever. So if I got somebody that walks in my office
mhm.
and says, "Hey, I want that," I send it to them. If they got somebody that walks in their office and they need me, we trade that back and forth. We make sure that that is
Yeah,
preferable. My point is,
mhm,
I think that in this world, as we talk about ever changing business, and it's becoming more it's becoming more relaxed. It's easier to have a business. I think more bosses, because
mhm,
shout out to my boss. He's kind of getting on that train that he's letting everybody do be results based
mhm.
instead of time based. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I think again, I think what's important for everyone is to define what success is for you
yeah.
personally, because also there's people who working a 9 to 5 with a good
Oh
salary,
yeah.
that's success to them, and I think that's great. Like the world can't turn without
Yeah.
people working a salaried 9 to 5, and so if that's and also like you don't have to deal with the stress and the pressure of making sure the business is doing this and that. Like you get to
Yeah.
show up and do your job. You don't have to take your work home with you a lot of the time. Whereas my mind is sometimes I neglect
Right.
important things in my life because it's always
Right.
churning with, this company, and that's but yeah, so you just got to define what success is for you, and then you can, make that happen. But yeah, for me, it was a lot of years of sacrifice and dedication. A decade. It took me a decade to get to where I want to be, and I'm still not where I want to be.
Oh
But
yeah.
to at least get to where I control my time, and everything else, will follow after that.
So
So.
so tell me what's next for Trenton. Tell me what's next for Riot Comedy, because you're a builder. You're a sculptor. You're gonna go make things.
Mhm.
So what's next? What's next?
Yeah. For Riot Comedy, what's next is moving into long form content. We do all short form right now. Everything is like
Yeah.
5 minutes and under on the website. All of our social media stuff is usually under a minute, but we're moving into 22-minute episodes before long. Movies is a big thing for us. We got a couple movie ideas that were sitting on the back burner that are kind of outlined. Some of them are partially written. But yeah, longer content, more subscribers. Honestly, so this is the goal for Riot Comedy. Our goal is to literally, when you think of funny content or what's your favorite comedy network or who's got the best comedy shows, it's Riot Comedy. We're trying to like Comedy Central's been at the top for long enough. Like we're trying to knock them
Yeah.
off and replace them. So that's what's next. For me, what's next is going into the person that can make that happen. And another thing is, I really want to start a charity, and I have a brilliant idea. I'm not going to give it away on air because I haven't set it up yet, and I don't want anyone to steal the idea. But it's an experiential charity where we provide people with a certain experience that they didn't think they were going to get, and it's rooted in love and giving and family and these type of things that are really important to me. And um So yeah, I'm trying to carve out time to make that happen. But my running two businesses makes it
Yeah.
difficult. But I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it because I've been wanting to do it for a couple years now. But yeah, so personally for me, just more personal growth. I love growing, changing, learning, and then yeah, start that charity so I can find a way to really, really give back to others and bless others, and help spread more love in the world because we
No,
can't get
no,
enough
that's
of it.
fair. One of my favorite things you've said on the podcast is you're going to grow into that person. I've always been a big believer of big dreams equals big growth for those people that actually take those steps to do it. There's a lot of
Yeah,
things I wanted to do. I wanted to
yeah,
get married. I wanted to do this podcast. But you had to grow into that person to do it. You had to learn. You had to grow.
yeah.
And if you're going to take down a behemoth, you got to grow. And from so I had an hour today between shows and I needed to get a bunch of work done. So I watched like 86-year cartoons and so that's what I got done. So I have no doubt that you're on that path. You can tell where your influences are, but you can also see how original
Mhm.
and the work you and your brothers put into it. You got my
Yeah.
on riotcomedy.com. It's $2. You're getting ready to get my $2 because I want to see the raunchy stuff. Because
I
that's what I
appreciate you.
want. I want to see the
Yeah,
raunchy
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, 2 bucks $2 a month will get you all the content. Now we have different tiers that are like
Yeah.
2, 5, and $10 a month, but they all the content, you can watch all the content for 2 bucks a month, and if you buy it for the year, it's only 20 bucks for the year. So what's that, like
Right.
$1.70 for a month to watch? And we drop new episodes every week. But yeah, wait till you watch The Adventures of Pool
Dude,
Boy and Jacuzzi.
I am so right there.
You're gonna love it, and Best Buds, you're really gonna like
Because
Best
look,
Buds.
I
Best
pay
Buds is
$5
fantastic.
for PBS a month to just so I can feel good about something.
Mhm.
I will give you money so I can
Nice.
laugh
Yeah, yeah,
and annoy my friends going, "Look at
yeah,
this. I talked to this guy." So yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you
And there was a lot of people that gave us backlash whenever we launched the subscription service because people are, like, so used to getting free episodes, and we still give away all
yeah,
the same amount of free content, but we launched, like, a bonus stuff, and people are like, "Oh, this is, like, bogus, you're making us pay for it," and it's like, "Yo, like, you pay to watch everything else on
yeah,
TV, what are you talking about?" And also, we have to have another revenue stream because all of our stuff on social media gets blocked and
yeah,
restricted and
yeah.
shadow banned and all these things for producing
And
raunchy content sometimes.
and the
So it's like you
payouts aren't
gotta,
great.
figure out some
Everybody
sort of
thinks
model.
everybody
They're
thinks that
not.
you get on YouTube and you get a few 100,000 views and you're rolling in it. No, your sponsorships, your partnerships, your
Not the
Jordan. I
case.
think the
Yeah.
year, I think one year Jordan got paid 2.5 million by the Bulls to play, and he was one of the top paid players. And then he made
Mhm.
something like 36 million or whatever it was from Nike. It's the
Yeah.
endorsements, guys. It is not. It's the sponsorships and
Yeah.
endorsements. It's not. It's not that view count.
Yeah. Yeah. Social media views and YouTube pays the best, but it's still like
No,
it's not
no,
extravagant.
not at all.
So yeah, we're building this model, and don't worry for the people that think it's not worth it. We haven't had anyone complain about
Yep.
it. Everyone who's bought it's like, yo, this is amazing. I'm so glad I subscribed. So we haven't seen any negative reviews from the people who have paid for it, but we got longer
Good.
content coming too, so it's gonna be
You know,
even more worth it.
uh,
But yeah, new
all I would
content
say
coming
is
all
if
the
you've
time.
got if you subscribe to any girl's OnlyFans to see her private parts for $4, yeah,
Yo,
give this guy a
real
couple
talk.
bucks and let him make you laugh. And he's not. I mean,
If you got $10 for some girls OnlyFans, you got two
right,
bucks for Riot Comedy. We're
right.
gonna give you much more joy in your life than
What
this,
what what are you using
chick on
OnlyFans for?
OnlyFans.
3 to 5 minutes. You're gonna get a lot more out of this.
And
And
then you feel
ashamed.
depressed afterwards whenever you log off of depression and
And
shame
then
sets
you
in
got to
after
go
you log
wash
off
your.
OnlyFans.
Yeah,
When you log off Riot Comedy, you just
yeah.
still feeling good. You wanna
That's
go tell
right.
your friends about it. You ain't gonna tell your friends about your OnlyFans
No, I
experience.
mean, unless yeah, and hopefully, yeah, like
I don't know, some people probably do. I don't wanna judge
no,
anyone's kinks.
mine is only like, "Hey, is that your sister?" That's usually when I expose my OnlyFans. So.
Oh, man, I'm glad I don't have any
All
sisters.
right, Trenton,
I've
man,
never
it has been an absolute pleasure. R
Oh, the pleasure is all mine, Ryan. Thank you so
Hey,
much for having me, man.
riotcomedy.com, check him out on YouTube. I'm sure you're on all the social medias, uh,
Yeah,
at
Riot
Riot
Comedy
Comedy
everywhere.
everywhere. Korma Coffee, check out that's available online too?
Yeah, yeah, you can go to
Okay,
kormacafe.com, so it's
yeah.
Korma, Korma. Korma Cafe, Korma Coffee, Korma Date Coffee, it'll all take you
Alright,
to the same place. So Korma Coffee.
absolutely. So cartoons and coffee. This has been my longest and favorite. I don't care who sees this or knows this. This has been my longest and most favorite episode.
We started to sign off 20 minutes ago. We're like, "Oh,
This
yeah, it was great having me." But it really was great being on this podcast, man.
this
I
is the
appreciate you
Midwest
having me.
goodbye, people. So that's what you get. We're two
It is.
Midwesterners trying to
It's
say
it's time to
goodbye.
slap our knees and say, "Well, that's about that time."
Well, if I don't do this now, it ain't
I
happening.
appreciate you having me, brother.